born here in Nairobi, raised here, though my parents come from Machakos, and I am one of 8 siblings. Sadly, I lost my mom last year. I have a sister who passed on in 2020. But I have lovely brothers and sisters, wonderful children, nephews, nieces. And it's an honor to have been picked to be a judge, because it brought some joy to my family and, of course, my children. And it's been quite a journey. I have enjoyed the work I've had to do for the Republic through my service as a judge. Having been a lawyer for very many years, I ended up now on the bench, which was something I dreamt about when I was a young man. Yes.
So how long have you served as a judge?
This is my 12th year.
Wow.
Technically, because 11th year to be more precise. This is my 11th year as a judge since we were appointed in 2012, July 2012. The court was established in the 2010 Constitution, but the new judges of that court were appointed in 2012.
All right.
Yes.
And talking of now the Employment and Labor Relations Court, it's sort of, as you said, it's sort of new in our context.
Yes.
How has it been establishing such, and how has the uptick of the same been?
Yeah, in the olden days, the court, it was known as the Industrial Court, existed under the Ministry of Labor. It was one of the aspects that the government had brought into place to ensure there was fair play between employers and employees. And so it would arbitrate between disputes between unions, the Federation of Employers, Employees, Employers, and was one of 3, as they call them, the tripartite partners. So over time, there existed a need to have a court with the same status as the High Court, because at that time, the Industrial Court was subordinate to the High Court. If you had a dispute at the Industrial Court, if you needed to review that decision, you'd end up at the High Court. And Kenyans now, in the clamor for a new constitution, felt it was necessary to include a court dealing with employment and labor issues, which is the same level as the High Court, so that they don't have 2 levels before they even get to the Court of Appeal. And that is how this court was born. And when Kenyans promulgated the Constitution of Kenya 2010, it provided for that avenue. We got a chance to have judges recruited for that court. And as you will remember, in 2011, we got a new CJ under the 2010 Constitution. That was Justice William Mutunga. And the judiciary underwent a lot of reform. And at that time, they started interviewing for positions for judge. Previously, judges would be appointed. It would be a nomination, and then you are taken to State House, sworn in, and you're appointed as a judge. But now, under the dispensation of the 2010 Constitution, the Judicial Service Commission is the one that has the responsibility to employ judges. They interview, they actually put out adverts, people apply, you're shortlisted, you're interviewed. If you're found qualified and fit, they nominate you for appointment. And when they nominate you, the president has no role. He cannot say no, because the JSC is the final arbiter in relation to appointments. Once they nominate, the list is taken to State House, and you're given a date when you'll be sworn in.
All right.
And the president witnesses the swearing in of judges, because it's a contract between the judge and the people of Kenya. Yes.
All right. And which disputes fall under that jurisdiction of the Employment and Labor Relations Court?
Everything employment, everything labor related falls under the jurisdiction of this court. We don't deal with murders, we don't deal with land cases, we deal only with employment and labor relations, because that is the preserve of the court. As you will note in Article 162(2) of the Constitution, it specifies what areas to cover. And so that is the mandate of the court.
All right. And maybe we wanted to know, because sometimes people talk of very lengthy court procedures or processes before the determination of a matter. Maybe how long is too long?
Any case that will last in the court system for more than 3 years, I think, in my view, that's too long. because ideally people have rights, they have aspirations, they have an interest, they want to articulate something. And if you take too long,
Yeah.
you even lose the essence of the fight. If you had a dispute with your employer, you take more than 3 years in court, it can be frustrating.
Yeah.
Because you'll spend money, you'll spend time, you'll have to pay a lawyer, you'll probably take time traveling between your home and court. Though currently we have a very good system where we actually handle cases virtually, which eliminates some of the expenses in travel. But also there is a challenge. You have to get internet connectivity.
Yeah.
You have to have a gadget that can connect. And so there are pluses and minuses. But if you stay with a case for too long, it actually is not right. And that is why in our court, we are having a service week in Nairobi next week, starting 6th of March to the 10th of March, where we will try and hear as many cases as possible. All the 12 judges will be hearing cases from morning till afternoon without dealing with the other issues we normally deal with, which are administrative, such as mentions, applications. And the essence is to get as many cases dealt with and disposed of in that 1 week as a way of trying to reduce the backlog. As you may be aware, Nairobi is one of the largest stations of our court. We have stations in Kisumu, Eldoret, Mombasa, Nakuru, and Nyeri.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, given the spread of this country, we are not exactly enough. But at present, we have the largest complement that we've ever had. We have 21 judges of the court. Unfortunately, one of the judges appointed passed away before they were sworn in. It took too long when the previous president declined to appoint some judges. It took too long for them to process. And by the time they swore in the judges for our court, one unfortunately had passed away. So we would have had 22 judges, but we have 21. So we need more. I'm sure JSC will employ in due course. And because of being the center, more or less, in Nairobi, we cover quite an extensive reach. You will notice there are very many industries, companies, corporations that are based here. We also cover Wajir, Machakos, Kajiado, Garissa. And so parts of Northeastern are served by Nairobi. So we have very many cases that are in our system. And so in a way, we need to get them out. Like I've said, if we stay with a case for too long, it just doesn't augur well for the parties. So even for the court, we want to have this out. And so we have a service week. I know we will have a few more as we go along, including for outer stations like Kisumu, which has quite a number of cases, Mombasa. And as we work around getting these cases resolved, the idea is to show Kenyans that, yes, you have a dispute and it matters to us to have it determined as expeditiously a time as possible, as quickly as we can. So we will try and do that as we head towards our celebrations for 10 years. We are celebrating our 10 years on the 11th year. Due to some budgetary constraints. The judiciary was at the receiving end at a point where we were not getting enough money. Yes.
All right. Now, listening to you, and I'm asking myself, if there's should I call it a threshold in terms of weight, a weight in a case. Maybe I bring a case. How do you weigh the weight for you to say that, this one we can listen. This one, Gigi, you are wasting the court's time,
You see, one of the cardinal rules of justice is fair hearing. So we have to give an opportunity for parties to be heard. So it is at the point when we have already heard you that we now know the weight of your case. And then we make our determination, which is either a ruling or a judgment. Now, there are people who, when you give them the opportunity to appear in court, they do not even show up. Sometimes it's hard to understand why you'd file a case and then not show up. But where they're able to explain the reason with sufficiency, then their cases can be returned. Otherwise, if you are late, you're not there, you don't bother, the case is thrown out. Now, the weight of a case, to put it in a different way, is is it important to that person who has sued?
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yeah.
Now, for me, as the one who's hearing, I'm the one to hear the two sides.
Yeah.
And if I find that the person who brought the case did not have a good case, I have no qualms throwing out his case. But if he has a weighty case, meaning he proved his case,
Yeah.
or she proved her case, then you can find in their favor and then award them either damages or other reliefs that they may have sought. But the weight of a case is really a question of
Yeah.
how important is it to you, and do you actually have the facts?
Yeah.
Because the truth is what counts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
You've talked about doing virtual hearings.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know. I think it still falls on you in terms of making laws, even in terms of employment and labor relations, in the sense that are you also considering doing something? Because during COVID, we saw people working from home, and so that almost became a thing. Is there a provision in the law for that?
The law is quite dynamic. The development of this online engagement with our clients, meaning the lawyers, the witnesses, the people who come to our courts, came out as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The previous Chief Justice, David Maraga, brought out this need for us to respond to. And because COVID had shut down places, we still needed to give justice.
Yeah.
We could not have a situation where you cannot have a hearing, you cannot have your case determined. It would have led to a situation of utter chaos and anarchy. And so the judiciary responded by installing systems which would allow hearing of cases virtually, including criminal cases. There was equipment installed in prisons, police stations were equipped, our courts were also equipped to the point where in instances where clients are unable to access on their own gadget, they could request to be given a room in the court precincts where they would sit, use a laptop provided by the judiciary to be dealt with. That was now towards the end of COVID when movement was permitted. But previously, you'd have to find a way to communicate with the court using a gadget, wherever you would be, so that you eliminate that movement. And that's how we've now gotten to this level where, with our new Chief Justice, Honorable Martha Koome, that we are not going backwards. We realize the benefits of virtual court hearings.
Yeah.
It saves a lot of time. And parties, because of knowing that they are on a limited time, do not now go around beating around the bush. They are very focused.
Yeah.
You'll find people take less time dealing, and a lawyer can actually sit in their office and have cases in Kisumu, Mombasa, Nairobi, and Meru, and just be sitting in their own office, which is versatility. It helps a lot.
Yeah.
Because otherwise that lawyer would have had to stagger those cases, have one today, the next one maybe tomorrow or the day after, depending on how long it would take to travel to the other place. But now they can have 3-4 cases in different courts
Yeah.
while seated in their offices. Someone can be in the Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, and my court on the same day.
Yeah.
Because there's that virtual option. Otherwise, they would have to travel to the Supreme Court building, address the judges of the Supreme Court, then travel to the Court of Appeal, address the Court of Appeal, then come to my court and address me. And that would take quite a bit of the time. And because I'm the junior in terms of hierarchy,
Yeah.
my court would be the last, right? So I would have to wait until they're done with the other cases.
All right.
But because now they are able to do it virtually, they can appear. In a few minutes, they'll tell me, Judge, I have a matter in another court. Can you give me a time allocation for, say, 10:30? I give him 10:30. He goes to the other court at 9:15, does that case, finishes off, goes to another court, deals with another matter briefly, comes to my court at 10:30. I hear him, and the case goes on. So that has actually really, really, really helped matters move forward.
And that, do you feel like that would be extended to the workplaces as well, like the provision of working from home, especially when you're not really needed at work?
it has actually become apparent that there is remote work that is now going on, and it's recognized as part of new normal.
Yeah.
There are many employers who now have employees who work remotely. You may be aware of instances where employees are working here, but the company they serve is in another country, and so they deal online, and their hours are different. And that's a workspace we've had to recognize, which was brought about mainly by COVID.
Yeah.
I know there were other iterations of such in the past, but COVID really brought out to the fore
Yes.
the need for a recognition that you can actually work remotely and you can be as productive. In fact, we're even seeing cases where people are suing for injuries at home because they say, I was injured while at work.
Yeah.
And so there's an interesting dynamic that is
Yeah.
coming up
Yeah.
where there is a new area of law. And even people now do gigs. You do some work for this company.
Yeah.
Your times for that company are, say, 7 to 8 in the morning. Then you have another company you're serving between 9 and noon. And then there's another company you're doing some gig for in the afternoon. And all of them are your employers,
Yeah.
but only for a limited period of time. So that's what is being called the gig economy. So
Yeah.
these are changes we are seeing. And we recognize those even in the law as we move forward,
Yeah.
because there's the law that is passed by Parliament, and then there's also some aspect which is known as judge-made law,
Yeah.
jurisprudence. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which assists in pushing the ball forward.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's the Corporate Hub, and this morning we have the privilege of hosting Honorable Justice Nzioki Wamakao. And today we are just talking about employment and labor relations, the disputes arising from the same. And so if you have any questions, any queries that you could be having, 20933, that is the SMS line. On WhatsApp, 0717 400 555. Hope FM Live, that is across our social media platforms, and we are getting in touch with us. And Justice, there is a labor. You have listened to so many cases, I believe. Which are some of, in our context as a nation, which are some of the major labor disputes that arise or you have been able to handle?
I will speak of us as a court because we are collective. We've had many cases which are of great interest to this nation. Recently, I'm sure you are aware of the NSSF cases that came to our court.
Yeah.
About deductions. We've had cases about appointments to government office. We've had cases on various aspects of governance in relation to the employment sphere, nurses and doctors, various cases with unions. And I can say without fear of contradiction that this court is very critical in ensuring the wheels of the economy move, because we deal mainly with businesses, and businesses are what drive the economy. We deal with government. Government is the mother of all. So if we were to exclude this court from the sphere, I'm sure people would notice. So we've had an impact, I know. There are, of course, criticisms that are leveled against us, but that's part of our job, because when you have a dispute between two people, at least one of them will be unhappy. At least one of them will be unhappy, because when you make the decision, one will have lost, and they might be unhappy to the point they will complain, make all manner of noise. You can't satisfy all. The best cases are where parties actually go, agree, reconcile. And we even have that option available in our court because we have court annexed mediation, where we identify cases which can be resolved amicably. Most of the disputes relate to issues that are crystal cut. It's clear, you can tell this is this area, and so at times you just look and say, wouldn't you too consider sitting and discussing? And sometimes they'll go and come back with an agreement. At times they'll go and come back without an agreement. Then you as a court have to make a determination. And of course, in that case, there won't be a win-win. One will lose, one will win. Yes.
Sounds a bit easier than the Supreme Court. I'm tempted to ask, are you the people who okayed CIS? Because
Yes, it was our court.
It was your court?
Yes, it was our court who did. Yes.
Yeah.
But you'll also be aware that we had put a stop to the
Yes.
appointment of cabinet secretaries
Yes.
because of issues that had been raised.
Yeah.
And so the process was stayed for some time.
Mm-hmm.
It went through the court system. And when the court was satisfied that the safeguards that are necessary in the constitution had been in place, it proceeded and they were appointed. So it's just a question of balancing.
Yeah.
The court is there. We don't take sides. We decide cases. Yes.
if we had time,
We had
there's a question here.
Yes.
Kindly ask for me, how long does it take to effect the order of the court, and how soon should the ruling of a court which has been pronounced be effected? For example, reward of unfair terminated employees.
Once a judge gives a decision, it takes effect if the judge does not defer it immediately. The only thing that remains normally is to extract the order or decree of the court and then initiate enforcement. Other people, not the court. It's undertaken by auctioneers, brokers, court bailiffs, and other people who are engaged in that end, which is called execution. The court, once I deliver my judgment, if you extract the decree, that decree is enforceable. So you can serve it on the party who is supposed to make payment, and they're supposed to make payment. If I had said 15 days, 15 days. If I had said 30 days, 30 days. Right. Yeah.
So what happens
it's
when
effective.
it's not effected within?
Oh, yes. Now, if a party does not pay, then there are other processes you can execute. You can go and attach property of the person who is in default. You can auction property of a party who is in default. You can have people imprisoned in civil jail if they do not comply with court orders. So there are various steps that can be undertaken. And it is usually the diligence of the party who has been successful that will determine how quickly this comes to a close.
Yeah.
Because once the court gives its order, it is now for you to take the other steps. And in case a party has doubts, there's always access to courts where you can ask, and you can ask a lawyer who will give you advice, but you can also visit the court registry and inquire. Now that I have this decree, what am I supposed to do? And they will direct you where to go.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I'm in a company where once a lady gets pregnant and goes for maternity leave, she gets fired because the employers argue they can't pay someone for 3 months for not working. It has been a challenge to us. Many have gone to the labor offices to complain, but still end up being terminated. Please advise, because we fear getting pregnant because we might lose our jobs.
I cannot talk about that because it could come to court. All I can talk about is the discrimination that appears at the workplace. The law prohibits any discrimination, either on the basis of gender or the like.
Yes.
And I can give an example of a case that was determined by the Employment and Labor Relations Court. This is the case of Esther Nduati versus Off-Fies Limited, trading as Harris Tavern. It's reported as 2019 Electronic Kenya Law Reports. In that case, the lady sought relief because she was an accountant, and she was terminated because she was pregnant. And so the court actually found that she was entitled to relief because she had been dismissed after she went for her maternity leave, and the employer was found to be in breach. There is nothing right in an employer deciding that women cannot get pregnant and therefore discriminate against women employees for that same reason. Was that employer dropped from heaven, or were they born by a lady who was pregnant at a time? Would they have wanted their mother to go through the same thing they went through?
No.
Of course. And the law actually prohibits such. So when people are that backward, bring them to court.
How far are we with the 6 months?
Which no.
Maternity leave.
The leave is as per the law. If Parliament is to provide, as they do in Sweden, that you'll be off for 1 year and you are paid,
Yeah.
we will implement it. If they say 3 months, it's 3 months.
3 months.
Paternity is 2 weeks. In fact, there are employers who've been brought to court for not allowing men to go on paternity leave,
Yeah.
and they have been punished.
Mm.
So
2 weeks.
yes, it's 2 weeks.
2 working
It's
working
just-
days.
They say 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We haven't defined it. If someone comes to court to have an interpretation, I'm
Yeah.
sure a court will determine it.
Yeah.
But it says 2 weeks. So 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that might not be enough in a
Yeah.
sense, but
Yeah.
at least it gives the child the opportunity
Yeah.
and the mother at least to have the support of the
It's
father. Fathers are not supposed to be at the bar when they're on their 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They should be dealing with that little one
Yeah.
and the mother.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think 2 weeks is enough. Hao wanaweza anza kujenga badala ya kulea. There's a question here. Ask Judge Makau, is working from home legal? We have been working from for a year now with full pay, but now been issued with redundancy letters.
Working from home is legal. You can work from home. It has been done. COVID showed us that we do not need to work from
Yeah.
offices due to the challenges the disease brought. So you can work from home.
All right.
Yes.
Can someone sue an employer who has not paid an employee for many months? Then the employer finds fault in the employee and sacks him or her without paying the previous or salaries owed. I see this in many people who have employed farm helps here. They pay workers portions of salary every month, and when the salary balance accumulates, they find something, a reason to sack them and not pay them their unpaid wages.
God hates a deceitful heart. You should not rob other people. You should always deal with people the way you'd want to be dealt with. If someone has worked the labor that has been dispensed, they're entitled to a wage. If a person is not paid, they have a right to approach the court
Yeah.
to get relief, to get payment for the non-paid part of their salary. And you can look at the electronic Kenya Law report, EKLR, that is kenyalaw.org. If you search for cases on unpaid salaries, you'll get a number of them.
Yeah.
So for anyone who is not paid their salary, it's your right. You worked, you earned it,
Yeah.
you're entitled to it. You should be paid. Yes.
All right, and I think we are going to be waiting for your questions in just a bit because we are going to be releasing the judge. You know, he is needed.
Yeah, he's needed, and we need him also to go and serve the nation and serve humanity. What does a court do if a government does not obey a court order? As like in so many cases we have seen of prominent people also having their homes raided, they are asking.
When the government does not obey a court order, you can have the official who has disobeyed the court order cited for contempt, and there is punishment for it. We've punished PSs, we've punished ministers, we've punished police officers. Anyone who breaches a court order is liable to punishment, but of course, someone has to take the step
Yeah.
of bringing that person to court and showing this person willfully disobeyed a court order,
Yeah.
and therefore they are punished. There are people who've had to pay fines. If you recall, there was a time some trade union disputes arose,
Yeah.
and there were disobedience of court orders.
Yeah.
And those trade union officials actually paid money. They paid fines
Yeah.
to avoid a jail sentence. In one case, I actually sentenced some people to imprisonment, and one served a term of 1 month
Ah.
in the Sol area.
Yeah. For contempt.
Yes, for contempt.
Yeah.
So if you disobey, it is brought to the attention of the court. There is proof for it. You'll be punished.
Yeah.
There is even once I punished someone for 1 day imprisonment because of contempt in the face of the court. And if you punish, the person involved would have a recourse to ask for a review. But in the event that it's in the face of the court, that is usually instant. Hiyo inanga mambo mingi.
Aina kesho.
Haina kesho. Yeah, hapo hapo.
Yeah.
Maclean Alusa says, I've been working for someone for 13 years with no leave or off days. Do I stand to get any benefits just in case I quit employment?
When there is a dispute in employment, the best thing to do is to take action. To quote KRA, mapema ndio best. Do your things early.
Yeah.
If you wait until, say, you've been dismissed, you might find when you come to court, because of the Employment Act providing a limitation on some of the claims you have, you'll not be able to recover the money for years gone. In some cases, the limitation is 3 years. In other instances, it's 1 year,
Yeah.
which is 12 months. So if you don't articulate your rights, then you might not be able to get any benefit. It's always important, if you have a dispute, have it resolved. Don't wait until retirement for
Yeah.
you to resolve disputes that occurred when you were employed 20 years ago.
All right. How do you deal with a company not willing to pay its employees the service fee? That is, they have worked for a long time, 6 years and plus, and whatever the period, and you want to leave. How should you go about it to get the service fee? Some dodge this with not giving you a contract to sign, but you have been working for the company.
Service is payable where you're not under a defined medical scheme. Sorry, not medical, defined retirement benefit scheme. Your employer may have a retirement benefit scheme which is particular to that employer, or they may have subscribed to NSSF. If your retirement benefits are at NSSF, unless there's an agreement to the contrary, providing for service, which in some instances there are, under the law, you would not claim service from that employer. So if your NSSF dues are paid, they are up to date, their deductions have been made, they've been remitted,
Yes.
how will you ask your employer for retirement? Na ameshakulipia
Nishakuwekea.
huko. So the best is
Yeah.
ascertain where you lie. Do you have NSSF statements showing deductions? If there are issues in that regard, courts will make pronouncements if evidence is availed to show that there was no payment of service when it was due.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's an interesting one here. They got promoted on merit, but after some time, a new set of directors demoted them with wage cut and transferred to another station. They went to court to retain their position, but they lost the case. The employer sacked them without reason and notice. So this is in a way challenging while still you are working for that company. But then after the court process and everything, there's sort of like victimization. Are employees protected in such cases?
As you are aware, if an employee has a dispute with an employer, they have a right to take it to court. There are sometimes consequences that follow such an action, but there are still rights and remedies. For instance, if I was working for a factory at the industrial area, I realize I'm underpaid, I take the dispute to the labor office, they appoint a conciliator at the ministry, they're unable to resolve the dispute, and the matter is referred to the industrial court. Determination is made by a judge that there is underpayment.
Yeah.
The employer should pay. If the employer does dismiss, then that person has avenues for recourse.
Yeah.
It's not that all is lost. Yes.
All right.
How does one calculate tax if you're working from home, especially if you're working for an employer from another country?
For tax, under pay as you earn, the amounts are graduated according to how much you earn. For consultancies, it's a percentage. So it would depend on what kind of work you're undertaking and whether the employer has agreed to pay from abroad your taxes. Otherwise, you, upon receipt of your income, is to declare it and pay the appropriate taxes for it. Yeah, depending on the nature of your employment. If it's a consultancy, there is a rate. If it is regular employment, meaning monthly, weekly, yearly. As you go along, there are certain payments that are made. Yes.
And I don't know if this falls under your jurisdiction, but Judge Macau, I'm in branding. I did some graphic designs for an NGO customer, which was various materials. But when I finally finished, so we could go into production, the customer says the project has been halted. So I asked them to pay for the design work and they refused. Do I have a recourse? Can I pursue this matter in your court, or what would you advise?
There are cases which lie within the sphere of the High Court. Commercial disputes are for the High Court. Assuming I was contracting with Hope FM to provide them a certain service, and then that falls through. As much as Hope FM may have an employment relationship with some employees, I'm not an employee of Hope FM. I'd have been a contractor or someone who was doing something commercial with that company.
Yeah.
I'd need to take them to, say, the High Court for breach of contract or such.
Right.
Yes. So it all depends on the dispute, and the best is seek legal advice. You know, I cannot give anyone legal advice. Advice is given by lawyers.
Yeah.
So that's where they should go.
You're an arbiter.
Yeah, I decide cases. I don't give legal advice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe where can people get these laws? Because some of them are clearly outlined.
kenyalaw.org. That is a depository of electronic law reports, as well as the laws in this country, both substantial legislation, subsidiary, they're all there.
Yeah.
You can always find that. And there are also avenues where you can seek legal advice. There is Kituo cha Sheria, there is the Christian Lawyers Fellowship who offer free legal advice.
Yeah.
There are lawyers. You can walk into their offices and seek advice.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Others actually even engage on online platforms with clients. So you can always seek advice from a lawyer without necessarily having too much to do.
All right. Yeah. And we need to allow you go and attend to the nation.
Yeah, but just a reminder of the service that is happening.
Yes. Next week we have quite a bit of extra work being done. I would urge that parties who will come to that court to be prepared to proceed. It's not good to have a service, then you come and tell me I want to adjourn.
Yeah.
I mean, we've set aside time to hear you. Come ready to be heard.
Right.
Because the judges are waiting, court assistants, the staff there are waiting for you to be heard. So do not disappoint us by coming and saying, I'm not ready.
All right.
Yes. Thank you.
Honorable Justice Nzioki wa Macau, the Employment and Labor Relations Court. Thank you so very much for enlightening us on matters, labor laws and employment laws as well. Thank you. Hoping that as a listener also, you do now know your rights as an employer, rights as an employee as well. And hoping that we will now have reduced cases of disputes between employers and employees.
All right. And thank you for tuning in.
The Business Line. It's just business.
Good morning to you. My name is Tiffany Wamboy. In our business news for today, the Nairobi Securities Exchange has